I'm trying to educate you on the difference between spinal flexion and trunk flexion. Right now, you're looking at trunk flexion. Nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying, now you're loading it with cables. I want you to refer to the best cable abs hypertrophy quick tip 6 to see how to do the exercise. This is the accordion effect. I stand up, it's still trunk flexion. I'm bowing. Okay, still trunk flexion. The abs are in there as stabilizers, but they're not concentrically contracting the way they're meant to pull the rib cage down to the hips. So what is it? Trunk flexion or spinal flexion? My spine isn't dictated when I was doing the overhead rope crunches, but I was working mostly psoas in a fixed position. My feet were fixed, my knees were fixed to the ground. So I was kind of wrenching my spine a little bit. Little pepper grinder going on in the lumbar spine. It only has 3 to 4 degrees of rotation. I understand that rotation would come from the knees all the way up to the head. I get it. It's a full body rotation. However, I have to understand the difference between trunk flexion and spinal flexion. Then I have to look at spinal flexion analytically and say, do I really need to do spinal flexion? We went over that. But there are ways to stimulate and create thicker blocks on a hypertrophy level by adding stimulus, by adding an unaccustomed stimulus to the rectus abdominis, as long as you offset it with a bridge or some kind of extension move. But my point here today is there's all the different ways that you heard of doing this. I'm suggesting the way I went over, where just putting a level of tension like an accordion and holding, coming up slowly, using your breath, holding that level of tension rather than flexing forward. Okay, trunk flexion, spinal flexion. Somebody brought trunk flexion into the industry. Everybody copied it. Is it working the rectus abdominis? Yes. Is it 10 times more stressful on the spine? Are you tightening muscles that shouldn't be tightened in the human body as you're going through that range of motion? Most definitely. So, are we going to work the iliacus, the psoas, major, minor, rectus femoris, or are we going to work the long, flat, superficial muscle called the abs with a little assistance from the helpers in the area? The choice is yours. I know what I would do. ExerciseBay.com. The how-tos and the why-nots. Thank you.